Good night. It is nighttime at the time of this recording. Uh, I will be talking about how I made my first weather app, and I'll be walking through the code that I use to consume an API from Open Weather Maps. Open Weather Maps is a website that allows you to use APIs that will access weather data. So there's a bunch of APIs that you could find on this website, but in order for you to use any of these APIs or APIs, you're going to need an API key. And as you can see, this is my API key. So I could use this with any of the APIs from this website to be able to access current weather data, whatever it may be, because there's a ton of APIs to choose from inside this website. Um, so anyway, this is the app. As you can see, it's my first weather app. So let me just run through how this works. So I have to enter a city, Belize, click on the button, get weather, and it returns this with a bunch of other information, but I just choose this because I thought it would be the most relevant. It shows me the city name, the weather description, the temperature in Fahrenheit, and the wind speed in miles per hour. So let's look back at the code that I used to create this simple API weather app. So this is my code. So the first thing, as you can see, this is the body. I split it into a header and a main, and the main has a form which houses all the output and input information. So first thing I want to explain is that for the form, I have the method attribute and is equal to post and this on submit attribute, and the reason why I put return false as the value for this attribute is because whenever you click on the button, you would want the page to reload, because if the page reloads, it's going to reset all your JavaScript. So to prevent that from happening, I put return false as the value. So now I move on. This is the input that you will actually put the city name for the API to work, because this API doesn't work with countries, it works with cities. So if I put something like Guatemala, say Guatemala City, so it only works with cities all over the world. Um, so yeah, make this required. Now the second input is my submit button. So that's why it has a type of submit and the ID of submit. Uh, Whenever you click on this button, it's going to run the get answer function that is inside my script. Now for this other section that you see a bunch of paragraph tags is for the output that you'll see on the screen. This paragraph tag is empty just in case if you enter something wrong, it's going to show inside this inside inner HTML of this tag, it's going to say invalid input. That's why I give it an ID of fail. And these other paragraph tags, um, this is split into two, where there's the value description, like city name, weather description, and this side is the actual value that is inside these spans. These span tags have the value that will be returned from the API. Like the country in here is going to say Belize, or like you've seen Guatemala City. In here is going to say the weather description, temperature in here, and the value of the wind speed in miles per hour. And over here I have the class now for the whole paragraph tag. The class of hidden and edit is applied to each and every one of these paragraph tags. The reason for me to have the hidden class is because I want it to not be shown to whoever is looking at the web page. That's why I gave this class a visibility of hidden. Um, and the edit is just for me to be able to remove this class so that it could be shown on the screen, because as you can see right here, it's not shown, but once we enter a value, it's shown. And I use that with the edit class. I use a query selector to select all of them. So I'll explain that right now because we'll move into the script, the script that I wrote. So the first thing that we'll want to do is create an async function because we'll be using this await keyword inside this function. And it won't work unless you put async in front of the function. It will not work unless you put this. So yeah, async function and the function name, brackets, and then the curly brackets. Now, in case within the curly brackets, we actually begin the meat of the code. So the first thing I did was save the input element, save the output element by, querying or finding it the element, selecting it by ID. Now for the API, way how APIs work is that you have a link. When you click on the link, it sends it somewhere else online, and then it fetches the information and brings it back to you. So, but this link is broken down into, I'd say, I have it here as four parts. The API, which is like the first part of the link. The input that value, remember I said that we saved the input element. So it's going to grab the value that you entered inside that element and put it inside this as the second part of this link. My specific API key with this and app ID equal in front of it, this text in front of it, because each one of the different parameters of the link is separated by a and since this is the app ID, just keep in mind that I have to put this in front of the API key for now. So I put that inside the URL. And lastly, and optionally, you could select what units you want to use. For example, I wanted to have the wind speed in miles per hour and the temperature in Fahrenheit. So I used this right here, and units equal imperial. And the reason why I know or how I got this was through the docs that is on the website. For each API that you access, it gives you a documentation for you to see. Like here, you see API doc. All of them has that API documentation for you to learn the different aspects of the API that you're trying to use. So this is the new URL that is formed when I combine all of the necessary information. Now, over here, I move on to the condition. So it begins if the length of the value that you inputted is less than 3, then that means that the output, the element with the ID of output, the inner HTML is going to say or is going to show the text invalid input. So let's see that right here. If we do something like this, first off, let me reload the page. If you say something like BE, it's less than 3, so it's going to say invalid input. There it is, invalid input. If you enter something, well, that's not quite accurate, but there it is. So it'll not show the right information unless you put in the right, right value. But as you can see, if it's not less than 3, I mean, if it's not greater than 3, then it'll say invalid input. So let's go back now. Now else, now here is where it gets kind of confusing, so stick with me. This get current weather is actually going to like send the API out online for you to receive the information. And you're over here with this variable, you're going to transform that data that you receive and turn it into a .json format so that it could be better understood and you could use it. So here we're going to console.log the actual object that we receive in a format that we could read, which is like JSON. So let me show you how that looks. So if I send something like Belize, get weather, and now if I press Fn and F12, in a moment it'll pop up. It'll show my the console. Yep, there it is. So right here it says you received object, and this is the like the JSON that I received if I well when I run that API or when I fetched it. Um, Now over here, I'm going to save all the elements as a variable, different outputs as a variable, like the country element, the element that is with the ID of temp. It's just so that I could easily say something like that inner HTML equal the value. It just makes it easy for me to change the value that's inside. Now over here, this is a loop. Oh, let me first start off here. Sorry, line 52. Let editables equal document that query selector all that edit. Now, what I want to do right here is make all of the these paragraph tags that are hidden. I want it to be viewed on the screen. And in order to do that, I need to select each and every one of them. And if I try to do it like this, it would just take up too much code. There's a faster way to do it, and that is storing all of these tags with the class of hidden in an array. And the way how you do that is doing document.querySelectorAll with the class of edit.edit. Now here I'm looping through that array. So here you see the initialization, variable I equals 0, the condition, and then the counter, I plus plus. Now here saying editables at position I, classlist dot remove the class hidden, or just remove the text of hidden that's inside here. So the only thing that will be left is the edit class for each one of them. So so now that each one of them is being displayed, we're going to need to change what is being displayed. It's being displayed, but now we need to change what is like the actual text that's being displayed inside each element. Because if no text is inside the element and you're displaying, it'll still show like nothing because there's nothing to display. So let's move on. Country.innerHTML equal my current weather. This is the remember this is like the JSON format that we've changed it to, and we changed it to .name. Now the reason why this is .name is because we're looking inside the JSON now. Like you see here, we have name. Now we receive the object, and object could contain um, more objects. It could contain more arrays, or it could contain name value pairs, such as this one, like name Belize. So if you wanted to access the name, we just had to go to the object, which is my current weather, and we're going to um, select the name key. And by selecting the name key returns the value of that key. So that's why we see my current weather dot name will that gets the value of Belize, and that value of Belize will be stored inside inner HTML of the element with the ID of country. Now over here with the temp.innerHTML, it's going deeper by one step. It's saying like inside this whole object, go to main, and inside main, select temp. Remember that. So main and then to temp. So here we go to main, and in here is main is key value pairs. There are more key value pairs here. So all you have to do is select the key, which is temp, and it will return the value, which is 73.72. That's why we say my current weather dot main dot temp. Now for the third one, it's the same thing as the second one, where you go to the object and then you go to wind. Inside the wind, you find the key of speed. So let's see, what was that again? Wind speed. So wind and then speed, which is the key, and then you return the value. And that stores it as inner HTML of the element with the ID of WSMPH. Now, for the last one, it gets a bit tricky because you see this thing right here. And if you're taking programming, you would know that this is one way how you access values inside an array. Now, how would you tell that we're working with arrays inside this JSON object right here, this object. So what we want to access is the weather description. So we go to weather. Where's weather? Weather, and it's an array, right? And the description is inside this first element of the array. So weather is an object. It has an array, and the first position inside the array has key the key value pairs, and the second one, which is description, the third one, sorry, which is description, has what we need. So here we go to my current weather, just like all the rest, the first object, dot weather. So now we're moving into weather. We're moving into weather, and at position 0, weather, the weather array at position 0. Now, and now I think I have to assemble all the APIs here and just not forget that. Um, so weather at position 0, which is this whole array right here. Now we're inside the array, dot description, which is the key. So now we're looking at the key of description, and we're going to return the value of broken clouds back. So here we have an object, and we have another object, except that object is contains an array. And inside that array, the first position, which is at 0, has key value pairs, and the key is description. So that's why it's written out like this. Sorry for the long explanation. I'm not sure who. It took me a while to understand it, so I just wanted everyone to understand that too. So that's how that works. And then here just says, just in case it is being displayed, um, change the document with the ID of fail, make it empty if it works again. So that's why if it's failed, see, like, it's failed. Hold on. Oh no. So that works. And if it failed, then it's going to say invalid input. But then if you enter something correct, then it's going to remove uh the text invalid input. There it is. So I hope you've gotten this far through my explanation. I'm sorry if it was a bit vague. This is my first video that I've ever created that's like a tutorial or walkthrough type video. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you've enjoyed me explaining, or I hope that you've enjoyed coding this along with my explanation. So aside from that, thanks for watching. This was my first weather API app that consumes an API. Thanks for watching.